Welcome to No Hive, online learning community from Kerala. Myself Mitra, AI-based personal assistant of Dr. Prem Shankar. I would like to welcome everyone to web scraping and data analytics with Python course. In last video we have discussed about Google search automation project. Today we will going to discuss about another small web scraping project with the beautiful soup module, downloading all cartoon images. Blogs and other regularly updating websites usually have a front page with the most recent post as well as a previous button on the page that takes you to the previous post. Then that post will also have a previous button, and so on, creating a trail from the most recent page to the first post on the site. If you wanted a copy of the site's content to read when you're not online, you could manually navigate over every page and save each one. But this is pretty boring work. So let's write a program to do it instead. XKCD is a popular geek webcomic with a website that fits this structure. The front page at https://xkcd.com has a pref button that guides the user back through prior cartoons. Downloading each cartoon images by hand would take forever. But you can write a script to do this in a couple of minutes. Here's what your program does. Loads the XKCD home page, saves the comic image on that page, follows the previous comic link, repeats until it reaches the first comic. This means your code will need to do the following: download pages with the requests module, find the URL of the comic image for a page using beautiful soup, download and save the comic image to the hard drive with iter_content. Function: find the URL of the previous comic link, and repeat these steps. Step 1. Design the program. If you open the browser's developer tools and inspect the elements on the page, you'll find the following. The URL of the comics image file is given by the href attribute of an img element. The img element is inside a div element comics. The pref button has a HTML attribute with the value pref. The first comics pref button links indicating that there are no more previous pages. Make your code look like the following. You'll have a URL variable that starts with the value https://xkcd.com and repeatedly update it in a for loop with the URL of the current page's pref link. At every step in the loop, you'll download the comic at URL. You'll know to end the loop when URL ends with #. You will download the image files to a folder in the current working directory named XKCD. The call os micdears ensures that this folder exists, and the exist_ok equals true keyword argument prevents the function from throwing an exception if this folder already exists. The remaining code is just comments that outline the rest of your program. Step 2. Download the web page. Let's implement the code for downloading the page. Make your code look like this. First, print URL so that the user knows which URL the program is about to download. Then use the requests module's request_get function to download it. As always, you immediately call the response object's raise_for_status method to throw an exception and end the program if something went wrong with the download. Otherwise, you create a beautiful soup object from the text of the downloaded page. Step 3. Find and download the comic image. Make your code look like this. From inspecting the XKCD homepage with your developer tools, you know that the img element for the comic image is inside a div element with the id attribute set to comic. So the selector #comic img will get you the correct img element from the beautiful soup object. A few XKCD pages have special content that isn't a simple image file. That's fine. You'll just skip those. If your selector doesn't find any elements, then soup select #comic img will return a blank list. When that happens, the program can just print an error message and move on without downloading the image. Otherwise, the selector will return a list containing one img element. You can get the src attribute from this img element and pass it to requests get function to download the comics image file. Step 4. Save the image and find the previous comic. Make your code look like this. The image file of the comic is stored in the res variable. You need to write this image data to a file on the hard drive. You'll need a file name for the local image file to pass to open function. The comic URL will have a value, which you might have noticed looks a lot like a file path. And in fact, you can call OS path base name function with comic URL, and it will return just the last part of the URL, the image name. You can use this as the file name when saving the image to your hard drive. You join this name with the name of your XKCD folder using os.pa so that your program uses backslashes on Windows and forward slashes on Linux. Now that you finally have the file name, you can call open function to open a new file in WB write binary mode. Remember from earlier in this course that to save files you've downloaded using requests, you need to loop over the return value of the iter_content method. The code in the for loop writes out chunks of the image data, at most 100,000 bytes each, to the file, and then you close the file. The image is now saved to your hard drive. Afterward, the selector identifies the ahref element with the rail attribute set to prev. And you can use this href element's href attribute to get the previous comics URL, which gets stored in URL. Then the while loop begins the entire download process again for this comic. This project is a good example of a program that can automatically follow links in order to scrape large amounts of data from the web. Ideas for similar programs, downloading pages and following links are the basis of many web crawling programs. Similar programs could also do the following: up an entire site by following all of its links, copy all the messages of a web forum, duplicate the catalog of items for sale on an online store. The requests and BS4 modules are great, as long as you can figure out the URL you need to pass to requests.get. The Selenium module will give your programs the power to perform such sophisticated tasks. You can try to develop Python codes for the same. We will continue our lessons in next video. Thank you. Please give your suggestions and feedbacks in comments.